No, 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 no.
Did you say anything to Hugh, or did he say anything back?
Nah, I mean, he just said thank you for the ball. I mean,
Well, it's a good week to be a Browns fan, isn't it? Let's get into this week's show. Hey guys, and welcome to this post-football week recap show that I kind of want to do. And also, I kind of want to do a preview football week kind of show on Friday. So look out for that this week. Also, look out for a new episode of Worst Take coming this week. And the topic's going to be a little bit different this week, but still going to be interesting to a lot of you guys who've subscribed. So I hope you guys enjoy it. But other than that, let's get into some of the news from the week. And we're going to start with the Browns and the Bengals. And oh my goodness, did this go well for the Browns and go bad for Hugh Jackson in almost every single way possible. Now, for those of you who haven't seen my Hugh Jackson video, cheap plug, go ahead and watch it. A lot of the things that I hit on in that video kind of reigned true in this game. As you saw, there was no love lost between the Browns and Hugh Jackson. I mean, you guys saw the clip at the beginning where Demarius Randall hands Hugh Jackson the ball. Then you can see this clip right here of Hugh Jackson trying to shake Baker Mayfield's hand after the game. And Baker wasn't having it. And even worse, listen to what he had to say after the game.
He said, "Good job, good game." Yeah, that was brief. I didn't feel like talking.
You or him?
Me.
Why not?
I don't know. Left Cleveland, goes down to Cincinnati. I don't know. It's just somebody that was in our locker room asking for us to play for him and then goes to a different team. We play twice a year. Everybody can have their spin on it, but that's how I feel.
And then it was pure speculation of what I was thinking about what happened between Baker Mayfield and Hugh Jackson in that Week 8 game against Baltimore. But I think these interactions kind of help the case of what I was speculating. And if you want to know what I was speculating, again, go watch the Hugh Jackson video. Watch it all the way to the end. I tell you there. Again, another cheap plug. Also, it looks like the Browns on both sides of the ball are getting healthy. You got Rashard Higgins back in the Chiefs game. We got Denzel Ward back in the Atlanta game. It looks like the secondary is really starting to play well, especially in the first half of this week's game. And it's starting to look like the whole team is starting to come together offensively and defensively. And that's very exciting because this Browns team looked very good at the beginning of the year just on the defense alone. Now we're adding an offense that we feel like can move the ball down the field, can capitalize off these turnovers. That's going to be very interesting to watch and see how this Browns team does for the rest of their schedule. Now, the Browns are done with the weaker defenses in their schedule. From now on, they're going to play a lot harder defenses. You have the Texans next week. You have the Broncos coming up. You also have the Panthers. And then you finish it out with Cincinnati, who, again, defense not that great. But then you have Baltimore, who has a solid defense. So we'll really see if this offense with Freddie Kitchens at the helm is here to stay and is here to impress for the rest of the season next week in a big test against the Houston Texans on the road for the Browns. So we'll see how the Browns do next week. One of the things I want to say, and I don't think a lot of people are pointing this out because he is such a great player, and I'm talking about Myles Garrett. He is a good player. I mean, he has 10 sacks already this season. He's been having a great year, but the last few weeks hasn't really dominated like you would expect him to do against lesser offensive linemen, especially this week. The Bengals were already down their second string lineman to start the game. He went down, and Cedric Ogbuehi winning the game, their third string tackle. And, you know, Myles got a sack, but he really didn't dominate as much as you would want a pass rusher to do when their team has a 35-7 lead. And the Bengals had to pass the ball so much. So, again, you want to see more domination out of Myles Garrett. Looks like he's hitting a little bit of a wall. He's got to figure out something. But still a great player. Still has 10 sacks. But I would love to see Myles Garrett dominate more. And I think once he does that, that's when we'll see this team really make some strides. And I think to win next week against the Texans, you're going to need Myles Garrett to be that dominant. Let's also look around the league real quick. Pittsburgh lost to Denver. Last-minute interception thrown by Big Ben. Interesting to see what happens here with Denver. They could go on a run here. They're 5-6. Good defense. Case Keenum's their quarterback. Haven't really clicked yet, but they look like they found something in Pittsburgh. Again, it was a win at home, so that kind of weighs against it. We'll see what happens. And, of course, the Browns have to play Denver in Denver on a primetime game this year, so that'll also be interesting to see. The wild card for the AFC is now completely wide open. I mean, no real team has a leg up on it. The bottom of the AFC is so bad this year. I think this is going to be a year where an 8-8 team or 9-7 team can kind of sneak in there and get into the playoffs. Maybe even a 7-9 team. It's just one of those years it's shaping up to be. So that will be interesting to watch from here on, and it's really going to give a lot of teams hope. So it's going to be really good for fantasy football. In other news around the league, Reuben Foster was cut after having a domestic violence arrest at his team's hotel this week. And nothing really much to say here. I mean, Reuben Foster has had a history of these kind of cases popping up around him. Other things when it comes to drug tests. And I think it's a smart move for the 49ers to part ways. They're trying to move in a different direction. And with these issues, especially when they're of domestic violence, these aren't issues like substance abuse, like the Browns had with Josh Gordon a while ago. Well, not a while ago, like a month or two ago. You know, in life, sometimes some actions just require that you don't get to keep your job. And domestic violence to me is definitely one of those things that if you do, you probably don't deserve to keep your job, especially when you're getting paid millions of dollars to play football. Yeah, so Reuben Foster gone. Maybe another team will pick him up. Wouldn't surprise me with the NFL. Probably might be the Cowboys. But as for right now, Reuben Foster is in a lot more trouble than worrying about whether he gets to practice next week. Now let's jump to college football news. Ohio State had a huge win over Michigan. I mean, they put up over 60 points on the best defense in the country. And I always thought for Ohio State to have a chance in the playoffs after almost losing to Maryland the week before, that they would have to destroy Michigan in order to have an opportunity and to show to the committee that they are worth one of those spots, because I do think that Maryland close call really hurt Ohio State, and it might still hurt them. Now, of course, Ohio State has to win the Big Ten championship against Northwestern, which isn't the gimme that it sounds like, because one, Northwestern not a bad football team, but two, Ohio State has this year had a little bit of trouble bouncing back after big wins. I mean, after Penn State, they had a letdown against Purdue. After Michigan State, they had a letdown against Maryland. So let's see what happens this week against Northwestern. But if they do win out and win the Big Ten, it's going to be an interesting conversation the committee is going to have between who gets in between them and Oklahoma. Because if Oklahoma wins out and wins the Big 12, they would have not only redeemed their only loss on the year against Texas, they would also have the argument that, one, they haven't lost a home or road game this season. The loss against Texas was a neutral field game. And their only loss was against a rival. It was a close loss, and they later beat that team in a championship game. Whereas Ohio State's one loss came on the road, but it came against Purdue, who is borderline bowl eligible, and you lost that team by a large margin. And then you also have the doomsday scenario with the SEC championship being Alabama and Georgia, number 1 versus number 5. That if Georgia finds a way to win that game, and I don't think that's ridiculous that they could, because they have been a very, very hot team as of late, that will throw a monkey wrench like nobody has ever seen into the college football playoff system, because you would have to keep Clemson. Probably Notre Dame is going to be a lock. And then Georgia, if they went out and win the SEC, they have to be in there. And then that puts the committee between a one-loss Alabama, who's been clearly the best team in the country, but isn't a conference champion, versus a conference champion Ohio State team that looked like they were struggling, but just demolished the #1 defense in the country in Michigan, and Oklahoma, who looks like the #1 offense in college football. But Ohio State also destroyed the #1 defense. So does that make them the #1 offense? A lot of questions going in the committee. Very interesting to see how this weekend plays out with college football, and see how the committee reacts to that. If some of these scenarios, very realistic scenarios, become true. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this first edition of this post-football weekend recap show, where I go over some of the recaps that matter to me, and hopefully they matter to you. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, tell me what you think about the college football playoff, or about the Browns dominating the Hugh Jackson. Well, they're not really led by Hugh Jackson, but, you know, the Marvin Lewis led, but Hugh Jackson assisted to the assistant Bengals. Let me know what you think. Baker Mayfield, 4 touchdowns. He looked really good. I wonder what Colin Cowherd has to say about that. But again, don't forget to tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I always love reading the conversations you guys have below. Sometimes I even chime in. And also, if you have time, please check out last week's episode of Worst Take. It has to do with Hugh Jackson. Feel like it's very relevant. And don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button if you like it. Just comment below, engage. Tell me if you're feeling this show. If you're thinking a preview for the week and a post show would be pretty cool. Or if you think it'd be pretty lame and you just want Worst Take episodes. Let me know in the comment section down below. And thank you guys for watching. My name is Quincy Carrier. Have a great day.